11 kilometers is 6.8 miles. So...
And of all of it, every trench, every ridge, every square kilometer of seafloor, it remains, by every measure, the least explored environment on our planet. We've sent machines down there, and every time we go down, we find something we weren't expecting. What lives in that place, we mostly don't know. But sometimes, the deep gives something back.
So that's the oarfish. Like, could you imagine just being on the beach and seeing this wash up on shore? Like, I mean, seriously, what would you do here? If mods ban that guy?
An enormous silver body washes ashore, a shape that doesn't match anything in a textbook.
Like, I mean, how long is that? That's probably like... Call NASA, that's an alien? Yeah, no, actually, like, that's what I'm saying. And they only come to the top of the sea when they're, like, dead. So I don't know if anybody's, like, been able to study one when it's alive.
Nothing like anything else anyone has seen in the ocean. Something out of a nightmare. This is the oarfish. It lives in a part of the ocean we almost never see, and for most of human history, the only time anyone met one was when it surfaced dying, or washed ashore already dead. Silver. Enormous. Longer than most people can actually imagine when they hear the number. Medieval seafarers called it the sea serpent, a monster that could coil around ships and drag them under. In Japan, it became Ryugu no Tsukai, a messenger from the palace of the Dragon King, believed to appear before catastrophe. In the months before the 2011 earthquake and tsunami that killed nearly 20,000 people, dozens of these animals washed up on Japanese coasts. People remembered the legend, and researchers are still arguing about whether there's anything to it. See, for years, people got acquainted with the legend without ever meeting the creature. They would find the dead body washed ashore, listen to the legends of the sea serpent, yet they had no chance to observe the fish alive. But how can such a big creature swim under the water?
I mean, think about that, though. So, like, in America, like, we don't have all that, like, you know, like, this means this type of stuff, like, not folk tales, but, like, legends and, like, gods, like, they have, like, they just have a tsunami and earthquake that kills hundreds, and then all of a sudden the fish that means disaster is coming starts popping up, like, at the beaches and stuff, like that'd be horrifying. What?
What is its path? Why did it rise from the depths at all?
No
These
culture.
Questions were left unanswered for ages.
No
Not
stories.
anymore, however. And the true story might even be more mysterious than the legend.
Goodness, that's the biggest fish I've ever seen. It looks like it.
The oarfish is the longest bony fish on Earth. Its name comes from the Latin regalis, meaning royal. For a long time, people believed the fish used its long pelvic fins like oars, rowing itself through the water. That turned out to be wrong, but the name stuck. And honestly, once you see one, that name makes complete sense.
I thought it's alive right there.
A body that can reach around 8 meters and 272 kilograms. And like many deep-sea fish, it may not stop growing in the clean way we expect from animals near the surface. Growth appears to continue for much of its life, which means an old oarfish may not just be older, it may simply be longer. A horse-like face, a flame-red crest rising from the skull like a crown, A gelatinous silver body, no scales, just a mirror-like coating that reflects whatever
giant
faint light
squids.
reaches it from above. And
things are
it doesn't
nasty.
swim horizontally like
probably-
almost
I
every
mean,
other fish on Earth.
They're probably in the
It
same type
swims
of depths
vertically,
as these things.
head
right?
pointing up toward the surface, tail pointing down into the dark. Nobody fully understands why.
I mean, these things, like, realistically, like, aren't that big. Right? Like, they're long, but it's not thick. It's just got length. No girth to it. Like a lot of my friends. Just a lot of length, no girth. You need some tonnage. Like a squid, a giant squid has tonnage. That thing is long and girthy. Pause. Yeah, jellyfish?
The oarfish
Yeah,
isn't
maybe.
really one species, it's three,
Nope.
all
Yeah,
in the family
exactly. No girth or
Regalecadae.
tonnage.
The giant oarfish and Russell's oarfish, both in the genus Regalecus,
There's different
and the more
types?
distantly related streamerfish, Agrosticthus parkeri, which has been reported to produce a mild electric shock when handled.
What?
Whether the others
They got electric ones too?
can do that too, we still don't really know. And almost everything science has actually figured out about any of them comes from a single species, Regalecus glesni, the giant oarfish. But here's the awkward part. Even that knowledge came almost entirely from dead bodies. The first specimen was formally described in 1771 by a Danish naturalist named Morten Brunich, who found one washed up on a beach in Norway. And for the next 2 centuries, that was basically how science worked with this animal.
Okay, it's got a little bit of tonnage. Like that. I paused at a bad time there. But, like, that thing is a little thick, truthfully. The fish specifically, is a little thick.
Across every temperate coastline on
So it has
Earth
a little
in
bit of
all
tonnage.
that time, fewer than 250 beachings have ever been documented.
Oh shit. The hell did I just click? Okay, so there has been some. It looks like the whole, like, California coast and then up by Oregon or something. A lot in Japan. Good amount in Australia.
For a fish that can reach 8 meters long, that number is almost impossible to believe. When one does appear, it's rarely a quiet event.
This 18-foot-long sea monster.
18 feet.
Eerie fish show up.
In 2013, an 18-foot oarfish washed up near Catalina Island in California. It took 15 people to haul it out of the
The
water.
Ring of Fire. What's the Ring of Fire? What's the Ring of Fire on that map?
For a fish that can reach 8 meters long, that number is almost impossible to believe. When one does appear, it's rarely a quiet event. Typically how science worked with this animal. Across
Volcanoes?
every temperate coastline on
Like, where specifically? You think that has something to do with the, like, if there's more appearances? Because, like, why does Japan have so many? Like, I mean, in Japan and California, and then, I mean, is this what? This is Cuba? Not Cuba. Chile? Is this Chile? Like, they have a ton, too. Yeah, okay.
Earth
Coast
in
is
all
specific.
that time.
Pacific, that makes sense.
Little sunlight, not enough for photosynthesis, and below a certain point, almost total darkness. Pressure far beyond what the human body could survive without protection. And water so still, so completely without current, that an animal living there for millions of years
I mean, that's like
never
almost
had
still
to develop
water.
any meaningful muscle mass.
And it's
The oarfish
6
is,
miles
in a
down
very
in the
literal
ocean.
sense,
It's so insane.
a creature of total stillness.
the ocean is horrifying.
Finding one alive down there is less like ocean exploration and more like trying to spot a single animal in the
look how
largest,
dark it is.
darkest,
Oh my
most
God.
featureless habitat on the planet.
No way.
Long before naturalists got their hands on a body, sailors were already reporting something much more frightening. Teeth, ship attacks, a creature that could reach 56 feet long.
56.
The sea
feet, my
monster
ass.
accounts written by Aristotle
No
and
way.
Pliny the Elder are now thought to have been oarfish encounters.
A
The
56
silhouette
long
matches
oarfish.
almost every historical sea serpent description
You
on
don't
record.
go in oceans. Oh yeah, you don't.
When
even
19th
play,
century naturalists finally examined
it?
actual bodies with scientific
Subnautica?
attention, the teeth disappeared from the record. The monster became a fish. But the fundamental mystery didn't shrink
56
with
long
it,
fish.
because what the bodies couldn't tell us
56
was
foot long
everything
fish,
that
yeah, right.
actually
I
mattered.
don't believe it.
Where it spawned, how it navigated in total darkness, what it ate, or
Prehistoric.
how long it lived. Those questions
Yeah.
sat unanswered for
But, like,
100.
Blue whales are what, like 100 feet? Am I tweaking on that? There's no way they're 100 feet. How long is a blue whale? Yeah, about 80 to 100 feet. That's so insane. Okay, I mean maybe. Dude, could you imagine? 100 feet long?
150 years.
It's like a
The only way to
leviathan.
answer them was to find one alive, at depth, in its own world. And that turned out to be considerably harder than it sounds. In the winter of 2014, more than a dozen fresh oarfish washed up on the shores of southern Japan
A
over the
dozen?
course of a few months.
Dude, this is what I'm saying. They have these legends about these fish, and then a dozen show up in a few months. Like, they'd have to be shitting bricks. They'd have to be so scared. Could you, like, what? What? They would have to be, like, absolutely tweaking.
Not one or two, which would have already been remarkable. More than a dozen, in good
Not that guy,
condition,
though. He's
of
excited.
varying
Holy shit.
sizes. For the first time, scientists
Yeah,
had enough
it's their,
material to apply technology nobody had
what year
ever
was
used
that?
on this animal before. The scans showed something
10
unexpected.
or whatever, when the,
The
world was
brain
supposed to
of
blow
a
up.
giant oarfish is only about an inch long. For a fish that can exceed 8 meters,
2012
that
or some
ratio
shit.
is one of the most extreme brain-to-body relationships of any vertebrate on Earth. But the bigger discovery came from the X-rays. For decades, across every specimen ever examined, scientists had never once found nostrils on an oarfish.
What?
The scans finally revealed them,
Do fish
tucked
have
at the very
nostrils?
front of the snout, opening forward, essentially
2012,
inside the
yeah.
mouth. That means to detect any scent at all, the oarfish has to swim with
I thought
its
they just had,
jaws
like,
partially
sensors. I
open,
didn't know that they,
pumping
like,
water across
actually,
those
like,
forward-facing
smelled with
nostrils.
noses.
It seems to find smells by moving its head and following the strongest signal. For an animal with a brain barely bigger than an inch, in a world with no landmarks and almost no light, that is still
A brain
remarkable.
An inch.
And it raises
big.
a question those 2014 specimens couldn't answer. If the oarfish is this sensitive to chemical signals drifting through the water, what happens when the chemistry of the deep changes? When something shifts down there in a way the animal has never evolved to expect? A few years before the 2014 specimens, mostly in 2009 and
We still haven't heard
2010,
what it eats,
around
though.
20 oarfish had been reported along Japanese shores.
Yeah,
Then,
sharks,
in
yeah.
2011, the Tohoku earthquake.
That's what I'm
came.
getting it from is sharks.
It was the
Like,
most
I've never
powerful
really thought
earthquake
about how
ever
fish
recorded
smell
in
things.
Japanese history. The tsunami it triggered killed or left missing about 18,500 people. So now,
Whoa. I was saying a couple hundred. 18,000 people died in that earthquake / tsunami. Well, I guess the earthquake caused the tsunami. And when was that? Because he said the oarfish showed up in 2014.
2010, around 20 oarfish had been reported along Japanese shores.
20 oarfish in 2010. And then the earthquake and tsunami hit. I mean, like, there's no legend about it. It's proven. They fucking die and then some shit happens.
Then, in 2011,
Yeah.
the Tohoku earthquake came.
Oh my god.
It was the most powerful earthquake ever recorded in Japanese history.
It's like in Pokemon. I think Absol. They say that, what is it? Absol. Absol Pokemon lore. Like when Absol shows up, when Absol shows up, it's like a catastrophe is about to happen. It's in one of its Pokédex entries. Every time Absol appears before people, it's followed by a disaster, such as an earthquake or tidal wave. As a result, it came to be known as a disaster Pokemon. Yeah, like, this thing's just Absol. The Oarfish is Absol.
The tsunami it triggered killed or left missing about 18,500 people.
This happened in 2011. I was like 11, so I don't even think I've heard of this. I've never seen this. This is insane.
So naturally, people looked back at the fish. But scientists were careful. Correlation is not causation. An oarfish usually comes to the surface when it is sick, injured, or dying.
Look how big its eye
not
is.
because the ground is about to move. Then, in 2019, a team of Japanese researchers actually tested the idea. They compared hundreds of deep-sea fish sightings with earthquake records across decades, and they found one match, one strong earthquake within 30 days.
Japan study disproves notion that appearances of deep-sea fish argue big earthquakes. It disproves it? I mean, I don't care if it disproves it. You literally... I mean, 20 of them appeared and then 19,000 people died.
And 100 kilometers of a fish sighting out of the entire data set. So the legend, at least in that form, did not survive the numbers. But the 2014 findings made the story a little less simple, because now we were looking at an animal that navigates almost entirely through chemical signals. An animal with nostrils built to detect faint changes in the water around it, and it lives above one of the most tectonically active regions on Earth. So the question becomes slightly different. Could seismic stress create electromagnetic or chemical disturbances that move up through the water column? And could an animal built to detect tiny signals in the water register something like that? We do not know. Most of the evidence still points against the old legend. But the legend never fully disappeared. It just became less interesting than the animal itself. In the summer of 2000, an oceanographic buoy was placed about 40 miles off the coast of
What?
Nice, France.
What is
Its
that?
job was simple: measure the color of the ocean and send that data up to satellites.
What?
The buoy was anchored nearly
Measure the
8,000 feet
color of
down,
the ocean?
almost 2 miles below the surface. But the ocean does not really care what we build something for. The buoy's frame, its chains, and even the shadow it cast began to change the water around it. Algae grew on the surface, small fish arrived, then larger fish followed. Before long, this scientific instrument had become a small floating ecosystem. In spring, gray white sharks were even seen circling it in slow rings, probably following the tuna that had been drawn there
Now
by
that's a
everything
behemoth.
else.
Holy, that's
month,
a big boy.
a diver went
now
down to
that's some girth and tonnage. Like great whites can get to like 25 feet long, and then they're also like thousands of pounds. Yeah, I don't know. Like the oarfish has some cool lore around it, you know. Like I show up and shit happens, but like a great white makes shit happen, you know. He shows up and makes it happen. He doesn't need the lore. He is the lore, you know?
Clean the buoy's optical sensors. And while cleaning them, the brushes created vibrations that traveled down the cable. In water, sound moves differently than it does in air.
Yeah,
During the annual planktonic bloom,
in terms of
a
fish,
living
you know,
oarfish rose out of the darkness below,
an orca,
possibly drawn by those vibrations.
Fuck up a great white, but
It was the first time in recorded history a human being had met one in the water.
is there double audio coming through? Hold up. Okay, let's try this.
Out of more than 120 dives at that same location afterward, it only appeared 2 more times.
Prehistoric fish.
The problem with observing deep-sea animals is fundamental. Scuba divers exhale constantly, and for animals that have never encountered a bubble in their evolutionary history, that
How
disturbance
prehistoric
is
are we
enough to send them straight back into the dark before you can study anything. The solution is a rebreather, a closed-circuit breathing system that releases nothing into the water. With that, and by timing the dives with the spring
Bro has
plankton
an anchor
bloom
on it.
when more animals were moving through the water, a living oarfish finally stayed long enough to be watched
Bro.
properly.
Look at how it blends in. You like, whew.
It was nearly
That's freaky.
5 meters long, the largest ever observed alive in the
5
Mediterranean.
meters.
What stood out immediately was the control. The oarfish was not just drifting there, it was steering itself, using the long dorsal fin that runs
swims
almost the full
vertically.
length of its body. Forward, backward,
Oh, it's horizontal
up,
too,
and
I
down.
guess.
The body
can swim
itself
backwards?
stayed almost motionless,
hell?
held vertically, with the head pointing toward the surface.
Okay.
Only the
check that
fin
out.
moved, like a long ribbon sending waves through the dark. It could control its position in a way that looked unlike almost anything else in the ocean. For a long time, the assumption was that the oarfish belonged mainly to the twilight and midnight zones. But ROV footage from the Gulf of Mexico recorded Regalecus glesni alive at depths as shallow as 39 meters, and it
Alright, bro's just showing off with the scientific name there. Regalectus gluttony.
as deep as nearly
What are we doing?
493
Just call it,
meters.
just call it what it is.
This mattered because it was the first time an oarfish had been encountered and recorded in its natural habitat,
What is it?
alive, swimming, and behaving
Got the
normally.
Red light
So
on
the
it.
animal once thought to live within a narrow band
Somebody
of the
brought a
ocean
laser pointer
turned
down
out
there.
to move through a much broader vertical range than scientists expected. During the buoy encounter, scientists finally had a living oarfish close enough to sample. They gently collected mucus from its skin without harming the animal. It was the first genetic material ever taken from a living specimen, rather than from a stranded body or a preserved sample. The skin itself was strange. It seemed almost completely insensitive to touch. Smooth and scaleless, covered only with tiny raised bumps unevenly spread across the body and becoming more obvious toward the tail. The fish held its position and seemed largely unbothered, but what the mucus revealed was even more surprising. The genetic difference between different oarfish samples was around 10%. For animals that were supposed to belong to the same species, that was a large gap. Regalecus glesni dominates temperate waters around the world, including the Mediterranean. Regalecus russellii dominates warmer Pacific waters, especially around Japan, Korea, and China.
Okay.
Their ranges are mostly separate, with the only confirmed overlap off the southern coast of South Africa.
Bro,
And
South Africa has everything. I mean, that's like where they film like Shark Week and stuff. Like, I don't know what South Africa doesn't have in terms of like the ocean.
physically, they are almost identical. The main difference is tiny.
All right, 10 minutes
Regalecus
left in the video.
glesni
Let's
has
lock in.
4 to 7 more crest rays on its crown than Regalecus russellii. That is such a fine
No,
distinction that
stop
physical
that.
specimens alone
Stop.
could not clearly reveal the split.
Stop that.
And even now, the range is still being redrawn. In 2021, a Regalecus russellii was caught off the western coast of Sri Lanka by a commercial tuna net. It was the first confirmed record of the species in the tropical Indian Ocean, a range nobody had documented before. Those old records of 17-meter oarfish, the ones that helped build the sea serpent legend and still sometimes appear in books and documentaries, are almost certainly not reliable. The longest specimens ever properly measured reach around 8 meters. The larger numbers likely came from sailors estimating size at sea, photographs taken from angles that exaggerated length, and bodies stretched across decks in ways that distorted their proportions. On one night dive at the buoy, researchers swapped their conventional white lights for ultraviolet lamps. Under UV illumination, 2 previously unknown bioluminescent organs lit up on the oarfish's head, one on the forehead, one under the chin.
Bro, yeah.
Scientists think these serve 2 purposes: pulling prey toward the mouth and making the animal visible to other oarfish in a world with no other light source. The
Okay.
mirror-like silver
Appreciate the
skin
link.
appears to
I'll
do something
check that out
related
after
but
this.
different. In the mesopelagic zone, krill, one of the oarfish's main food sources, produce their own bioluminescent glow. The current hypothesis is that the oarfish's reflective body simply mirrors that ambient krill light, making the fish effectively invisible to both the prey it's approaching and the predators watching from below.
What's the prey?
It can't produce its own light, so it borrows the light
Still hasn't
around
told
it.
us the prey.
Which raises a different question. How do these animals find each other across hundreds of meters of featureless dark? When two oarfish converged on the same buoy simultaneously, arriving as if responding to the same signal, the leading explanation was pheromones. Chemical messages released into the current carried across enormous distances, detectable only by other oarfish. Once they get close, a different system takes over. The oarfish goes completely still and spreads itself wide,
Whoa.
maximizing the reflective surface of its silver body, becoming a mirror in the dark.
What are those
The red
things that it's
dorsal
sticking
crest
out?
and pelvic fins, long dismissed as decorative, now look like signaling structures, communication tools
T-posing.
for a world where sound and sight are almost useless.
It's just a ribbon. It's
Up to
literally a
this
ribbon.
point, every oarfish the divers had seen carried the same strange damage. Sections of tail missing, scarred flanks, and blunt ends where the bodies seemed to simply stop. The obvious explanation was predation. Great white sharks had been seen around the buoys, so it was easy to imagine that something large had attacked them.
Yeah, that makes
But
sense.
the evidence for that was weak. For an animal this big, the oarfish has very few confirmed predators, and no documented shark attack has ever been recorded, and the only verified case involved pilot whales. So the missing tails were probably not the result of an attack. The oarfish was doing it to itself. This is
What?
called serial autotomy. A lizard can drop its tail to escape, but the oarfish does something different. It can shed parts of its own body behind the vent, roughly 2/3 down its length, and it can do this again and again. The purpose does not seem to be escape. It seems to be energy conservation. By reducing its body length, the oarfish lowers the cost of keeping itself alive, saving energy for the organs that matter most. It may be the only fish known to repeatedly amputate parts of its own body
What?
for
It can just
metabolic
drop-
reasons. And
it
this
can just
may not
drop
be
its
new
weight?
behavior. The only known
The
oarfish
ultimate cutting
fossil,
fish?
about 2.2 million
insane.
years old, shows the rear part of the body drawn inward in a way that looks consistent with the same process.
Looks like
But the
beef
fossil
jerky.
could not tell scientists what the oarfish was eating. Lipid analysis of the fin tissue did. The answer was krill, specifically bioluminescent.
We are 20 minutes into the video, and it's finally telling us what the hell this fish eats, and it's krill. All right.
Krill from the mesopelagic zone. Their chemical signature appears in the oarfish's flesh.
You'd eat an
And the
oarfish?
red color of its fins and even its eggs comes from krill pigment. That
That's his
also
job in
fits
the
with
video.
how krill
His
move.
job is to talk.
Every night they rise toward the surface to feed, then sink back into deeper water before dawn.
Bro.
Oarfish seem to
You'd eat
follow
an
that
oarfish, for
movement,
real?
drifting through krill aggregations with their mouths
think I
partly
would.
open. In those
way.
moments, they
No way
behave
that tastes
almost
good.
like filter feeders, taking in small prey and drifting organisms as they pass through the swarm. Parasites added another clue. Stranded oarfish contained nematodes linked to krill, and adult forms of the same parasite were later found in sperm
Oh,
whales.
sperm whales
So
are
the
badass
oarfish sits
too.
between krill and whales in the deep sea food chain, a mesopelagic link between some of the smallest and largest animals in the ocean.
Those things go deep too.
In January 2019, two living oarfish were caught
Moby
in a
Dick-
commercial
Moby
net
Dick's
off the
based
coast of
off a sperm
Okinawa.
whale?
At just 40 meters depth, one was already dead. The other was alive, but had lost its tail during capture. Before they were lost completely, researchers performed artificial insemination. It was the first reliable record of oarfish reproduction ever documented.
Bro, they're
What that record revealed about the eggs themselves
Reproducing
was
these
almost
things
as
in labs
strange as
now?
everything else. Oarfish eggs are buoyant, bright red, roughly 6 millimeters across.
Bright red, that's yellow as
released into
shit.
the open ocean to drift in the plankton with no parental care of any kind. The adult disappears back into the dark, and the eggs are left to the current. Around 400 of them were fertilized and placed
Where's
in
the
a tank.
bright red
To
coming
put this in
here?
perspective, most open ocean fish eggs hatch within 1 to 3 days. The oarfish eggs took 18 days. After hatching, each larva immediately did something that made no sense. Adult oarfish swim vertically, head up, using their dorsal fin. The larvae spent more than half their time pointing downward and swam using their pectoral fins instead. They also carried a dramatically elongated dorsal fin filament.
Bro, that's the baby? That thing on its head's bigger than its body.
Averaging nearly twice their own body length, whose function nobody has been able to figure out. And then, despite having fully functional mouths, none of the larvae ate anything. Rotifers, brine shrimp, fatty acid-enriched feed, nothing worked.
It ate
Across
nothing?
the whole observation period, their mouths opened only 6 times. Within 4 days of hatching, all of them were dead. So what do oarfish larvae eat in the wild? We still do not know. Maybe something about the tank conditions was wrong in a way scientists could not identify.
What?
Or maybe the larvae feed on something so specific to the open ocean that nothing offered in captivity came close.
Rare
Either
fish,
way,
picky
the
eater?
question
No
is
shit,
still
it's a rare
open,
fish.
and it is not the
Wow.
only one. We do not know their spawning season.
You know
we
who
do
aren't
not know
picky
their
eaters?
maximum
Sharks.
lifespan. Their
There's a
geographic
reason
range
they
is
got
still
tonnage
being
and
redrawn.
girth.
Their communication system is still partly theoretical. Even their self-amputation behavior is known from only a handful of observations and one 2.2 million year old fossil. And this is the larger problem with the oarfish.
Yeah, for
Almost
real.
every oarfish that has entered the human record came
And
to
I
us
mean,
by accident.
not a
Washed
lot of
ashore,
pandas either,
caught in a
so-
net, floating near the
It
surface
goes
where
hand
it
in hand. If
probably
you're a
did
picky
not
eater,
belong.
I mean, shit.
We have almost never gone into its world and found it on our own terms. And if a fish this large,
Chicken nuggets
this
and mac and
recognizable,
cheese for
and
these
this
guys.
difficult to mistake can remain this unknown for so long, then the real question is not only about the oarfish, it is about everything else down there that has
Bro.
never surfaced, never washed ashore, and never entered the light long enough for us to notice.
There's a squid right there.
The deep ocean is the largest habitat on Earth. It helps drive our climate,
Bro.
shapes our weather, and contains the largest migration on the planet. More biomass moving up and down every night than the entire Great Migration in Africa. And yet, we have explored less of it than the surface of the moon. Whatever is down there is not waiting for us to find it. It is simply continuing in the dark, the way it has for millions of years.
All right. So, I mean, the oarfish has some aura. So if you guys enjoyed the video, don't forget to like and subscribe, and I'll see you next time. Thanks.